Sure. So, have you guys been on coffee breaks before? Ed, I don't know if you've been on a coffee break before.
Oh yeah,
Oh, you
yeah,
have? Okay.
yeah.
Okay, great. So our coffee breaks originally started probably almost a year ago now. I think we started them last October. And they were originally designed to be drop-in events where people could come in and ask any ed tech related questions. We didn't get really high participation numbers in those early months, so we decided to start offering topic specific programs during our coffee breaks. So we would cover a specific topic, a tool, or a program for maybe 20 or 30 minutes, and then we would open it up for questions. And those were more successful in getting people to hop on to our calls. So we have continued down that route. Today, we're going to have Brian here, and I am going to hit record. It looks like Jamie just hit record. So, oh, we are recording. Good. I want to make sure I record these because we will post this on our EdTech blog and our YouTube channel for folks to watch if they couldn't be with us live this morning. So Brian is going to be talking about the intersection of leadership and technology this morning. And that is all I will say. I will let Brian cover the rest of what he would like to cover for himself. So welcome, Brian. We're thrilled to have you here with us today.
Hey, thanks, Danae. So in brief, I'm not going to tell you anything or talk much at all about leadership and technology. In the spirit of the idea of having a coffee break, what I hope is that we can kind of converse and co-construct some ideas, some approaches, or some thinking around leadership and technology. I'm highly interested in this. I'm trying to figure it out for myself. How can I better deploy the new technologies that are out there and that are coming in my new role in this leadership specialist thing, whatever that is. And I'm still figuring that out too. So I'm hoping that I'll learn from you guys today. So the kind of the format or what I wanted to discuss was just how we might use technology to improve our leadership skills. Again, I want to hear from you guys sharing approaches and thinking about intersections. I find innovative things happen at intersections, and so I often try to couch things in the idea of an intersection where two could be theory and practice, where those come together. And then I'll mention a new national leadership network that's out there that some of you already joined. So starting out, I always ask this question: how do you define leadership? What is it? It's this huge thing, and everybody's got a slightly different definition, including the and the theoretical constructs. So what do you guys think? What is it in real life? What's leadership?
Hey, Brian, this is Jerry. I think of leadership more as influence versus managing, where you're trying to influence people to act in certain ways, and particularly in the public sector where you don't have as much control. Leaders demonstrate good qualities, hopefully, and influence people.
Yeah, I like that. Others? There's no wrong answer. Well, there might be a wrong answer. I don't know.
How about a czar? Could a czar be a leader?
Sure. Sure. There's a dictatorial leader, authoritarian leader. A czar would definitely fit in that.
I guess there's different stages of leadership when you need something. I mean, if following 9/11, you probably need something that's a little bit more dictatorial versus other times where you need something that's more engaging and more influential as you move ahead.
Yeah, it could well be. So context is everything. So in looking at what's happening, for example, when we had our budget crisis 4 years ago, 2008-9, the bottom. Well, okay, it's longer than that. The bottom dropped out. Our budgets were cut in our county where I was at that time. We lost 18 or 19% of our budget. And that's tough. That's a big hit, especially when most of your budget is on personnel and not things. And ours was heavily that way, 95% probably, leveraging people in order to do the work that we were doing in Miami County. And so, yeah, that context really changed what leadership looked like. So real quickly, because I want to get to the technology part, because I'm really interested to hear what you guys are thinking and might have to say. So just a dictionary, Webster's kind of definition, the action of leading a group of people or organization. That's pretty straightforward. When you dig into the literature a little bit, there's certainly more what Jerry was talking about, creating this vision. So it's not just leading the group or telling them what to do, but it's creating this vision, sharing that vision. So if you don't share it, if the leader doesn't tell you kind of where they're thinking and what they're looking out toward, then it's you're missing a huge chunk of opportunity. And then providing a way, so that could be by providing information, knowledge, methods, process. That's a huge piece of it. And then you may likely have to manage conflicting interests as you're moving this thing forward. And I'm sure we think of a lot of different examples where we've seen sort of these things play out. And this is assuming a positive definition of leadership in your transformational type leader versus the dictatorial or hierarchical leader. This is a good leadership model, if you will, where we're seeing positive things and getting things done. So with that kind of a background, let's jump into our first question. How might we use technology? And literally, I'm right now trying to think through this and figure this out. How might we use technology to improve our leadership skills? This is a tech team event.
Brian, can you hear me?
Yeah.
This is Kyle.
Hey.
Hey there. One thing that I always think about when I think about the best leaders I have ever worked for is how clearly they communicate. And I really like using some of the new technology, particularly the box, technology where you can invite people to look at your files and folders, and everybody updates them and they share them. And I think that is really a fantastic way of communicating. Ergo, I think it's a great leadership tool.
I was grabbing something to write. That's good stuff.
I thought I lost you. I thought you left. You went to get your coffee.
Well, it was only you, Kyle, so I was...
I'll second what Kyle said. I think that's a really, really great point. And that's something that we talked about at the Leadership Summit on Wednesday at our table, is this need for leadership to provide transparency in how decisions are made. Because oftentimes what we experience in large organizations like Extension is administrators come together and they make decisions over many, many months of deliberation. And the organization as a whole is often left out of a lot of that deliberation. And we instead get the end result, the end decision after months and months and months, but we never saw that whole process. We never saw the thinking behind why those decisions had to be made or how they were made. And I think using technology like Box or even like, Zoom webinars or anything, these tools can help inform the organization how different decisions are being made, sort of that process behind what's happening. And it doesn't have to be very complicated or complex. It can be a very easy thing. We could use surveys to gauge expectations, to gauge how people are feeling about certain things, and just to include them in that process. And I think that would be really helpful for gaining support for a lot of the decisions that are made at higher levels.
Yeah, I think about like 6th grade math. Show your work. Don't just tell the answer, but show what you did, and that can be really impactful with especially if there's a big change that's coming. Being transparent and talking through and sharing some of the thinking, and technology can certainly do that. I like that. That's really great. Who else?
I would agree with that. I think we've talked a lot lately about the concept of working out loud, and I'm kind of moving away from people who think out loud to more deliberate working out loud. And I can see ways of engaging. I think Danae has a really good point that people do these leaders make these decisions in something of a vacuum and then are surprised when they get feedback, when they could have set up using technology to get polling, townhouse meetings, other things they could have done along the way to do that. But I think there's ways of engagement and access and transparency that would be helpful with technology. And just one comment, going back to your other slide where you had, I think, I didn't get a chance to write it down, but I think you had like the vision and information, knowledge, and methods. The only thing I would add to that, Brian, is somewhere, I think one thing that leadership brings, regardless of technology or not, is wisdom. And that may have experience combined with information, knowledge, and methods to that as well.
Yeah, that's really good. Wow, thanks, Jerry. That's really interesting. Yeah, wisdom as a result. And for some of the other folks on the Zoom, Jerry mentioned Working Out Loud, which is a book. I just read it maybe a couple months ago. John Stepper penned it. And his whole idea is Dale Carnegie meets the internet. And so he asked the question, how can you work from your strengths, the things that you're good at? Essentially, how can you be a leader in whatever hierarchical level of the organization you are? How can you lead from your strength position with generosity that makes positive impacts and in short, creates luck? You take deliberate steps using technology and the things we have today, these tools, in order to create your own luck and to make a path forward for your personal career, for your organization, and it's letting people see it by putting it out there and being vocal or written or working out loud is the name. So pretty neat book. I've given it to a couple people to read already. So yeah. So thank you. Other thoughts on using technology to improve our leadership skills? All right. Well, good. That was some good programming. Let's look at question number 2. Can you practice leadership using technology? What does that look like? And then what are the pros and cons? What's the upside of doing that or the downside?
Well, Kyle again. I think a lot of times leaders are really good leaders don't live inside a box, and they're willing to try new things. So I've seen a lot of folks, boy, I probably go back a long way, but I mean, when the first handheld devices came out where you could track your information, and I saw different people adopting them and struggling with them, but learning and then teaching their own folks. And some things worked, some things didn't. Some things, it's like all of us. All of us have different ways of tracking our appointments and handling our schedules. It's always good to go to seminars and learn new things that work for other people, but at the end of the day, we're all different, and some things will work and some things won't. So what I see is leaders practice leadership using different tools as they come out, finding out what works for them, and using it as needed. And a lot of times they also can help the people that report to them learn, just because of the way they accept learning and the way that they I don't know, it's kind of like an aura around them. They're willing to try new things, and it's a great thing because it sets kind of a stage for everybody else.
Hey, James.
Hey, good morning.
We're just kicking around. We're not all having coffee, just disclaimer. I have water, and Danae told me it was okay. So I just want you to know that. We're just kicking around the idea of practicing leadership. Can you practice leadership via technology, and what are the upside or the downside of that? What might look like? And yeah, Kyle, there are definitely different tools that could be implemented. How about pros and cons of using tools to lead?
I think Kyle had a really good point. But I think the accessibility of resources now with technology, that you can find things, is really important. On the pro side, I think there's ways of doing that. I think on the con side, if you're looking for something on the negative side, is I've had a couple of experiences with people who were leaders or maybe more managers who have resorted to technology to lessen the blunt of bad decisions. So they might use email to inform you about bad decisions or other ways that they've sheltered themselves using technology. So
yeah, it doesn't sound like the best way to do that.
And along those lines, I've seen people that are really into technology, and they're throwing out a million things all the time. Let's try Trello. Let's try this. Let's try that. So the people that are reporting to them are trying to learn these new tools, and then they're off to the next new thing. And because there's such a great growth in technology, it's impossible to keep up. And what ends up happening is you've got people struggling to learn. One of the biggest mistakes that I ever saw somebody really chasing, because it didn't work for us, was the Trello project mapping software. And I was the only one in the organization that was using it. And I was using it religiously, and then he kept tossing out more things, and I was trying to learn all of those. And then all of a sudden I realized nobody else was using any of it. I was the only one, because everybody knew the culture, and they knew that it was just they were going to keep throwing new things out. So I just went back to my regular event management, project management style, and it worked for me, and nobody noticed that I even stopped. But, they were throwing this stuff out there. So you kind of got to have some control on it. Otherwise, you've got people running in a million different directions, and it's more disorganized than if you hadn't thrown out anything in the first place.
Yeah, creating disorder, not a good leadership strategy. Any other pros or cons? I'm thinking of different examples in my head that that I've seen. One of them that popped into my mind was a con, a negative, which is that leaders using technology can be distracting. And so one of the things we've talked about in recent months or maybe years, I don't know, I'm a little slow to some things, but the idea of being present in a conversation, in a classroom, one-on-one or in a group, whatever it may be. If you're using technology, even yesterday or day before yesterday, when Jim Kouzis was there at the 4-H Center, and pretty high dollar speaker, giving great stuff, and I took a couple pictures and I wanted to tweet that out. I was like, I want to be cool and tweet this out and share a great quote that he had said, and it dawned on me I wasn't paying attention to what he was saying anymore because I was thinking about tweeting. And so I put my phone down and I said, okay, I'll wait and I'll tweet during the break. And so that was just, I caught myself and I was like, yikes, I better be careful here. So that was just that being present idea. Any other thoughts on that?
Well, I read that blog post. Didn't that just come out yesterday or the day before? And I thought that was great, Brian. That was really true. And I think that does happen with technology all the time. So I'm a little puzzled with the question, to tell you the truth. can you practice leadership using technology? I think you can use technology to practice just about anything. So I'm wondering what specifically might lend itself to leadership, but definitely what whoever was talking before said, I agree with technology for the sake of technology gets in the way all the time. And so it kind of ties around to what you're saying, Brian. It's much better leadership even to be present and listening and focusing on content as opposed to method. You know what? That's why I like Zoom so much. We don't have to start out every meeting. Can you hear me now? And it's much better.
Yeah, our first question, Jane, was about.
I'm sorry to have missed that, by the way.
Oh no, it's quite all right. Kyle mentioned in the first one that technology can provide a method of communication and some transparency opportunities. And so, as leaders, communication is one of the key points of leadership.
Oh, I see.
And so that was a preface, but I wanted a little bit of vagary in these questions that I designed for the coffee break because, and I mentioned this right at the beginning, I'm hoping to learn and hear from you guys because I don't have any of the answers, but I'm hoping to together, think and talk and figure some of this stuff out and have some more ideas. So yeah, so your question about the question is valid. It's a great question. So, okay, well there was something else I thought of. Oh, Jane mentioned a blog. So yesterday we do a community development blog. So the community development team, there are about 20 of us across the state, take turns writing, and then Sandy Adrumsky sends that out. And yesterday, it was my turn or whatever. And so my blog was about pivotal conversations, being present, pausing and paying attention to what you're doing in order to affect, a greater outcome or more positive outcome. And interesting, Jane, I've never had someone like immediately write and say, I used your material. And yesterday, someone wrote to me from a county office and said that she was having great difficulty in a conversation with one of the program assistants, and that she had read the blog and had then had the other person read the blog, and then together they used be more present, be deliberate, slow down, a couple of the points that were in there, and we're able to come back to their conversation and resolve it. And she wrote and said, thank you. I was like, holy cow, I've never had that happen. So technology, that was a little bit of leadership or coaching using technology. And
yeah.
Well, I was blown away and humbled that she wrote. I was really grateful, but give a lot of the credit to Sandy and others who make all that happen.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let me see.
Brian, this is Jerry again. I just a couple of things I think about it. I think leaders really need to be tech savvy.
Uh-huh.
And I think of like past generations, and I think of like Franklin Roosevelt and the fireside chats using radio, where people had TV and people would sit around and listen to the radio, and how he effectively communicated and changed people with that. But I think leaders also today need to be aware of technology and ways that others can use it. And I'm thinking of like David Snowden, regardless of how you might think of him. There is really almost everything we do now is transparent.
Mm-hmm.
And so the idea, Danae is exactly right when she talked earlier about extension administrators making decisions, spending months dwelling on things.
Mm-hmm.
Those days are limited, I think, because there's always someone who is either a whistleblower or I don't know how to describe it other than there's a higher degree of accountability, I think, at some point with folks now. So the technology has always been there. And I think that leaders need to learn the technology as a ways of not only communication, but engagement.
Yes.
and realize that you're going to have you're going to have to figure out. I mean, we're talking about an election year, and we're going to be like maybe 51 to 52% of the people decide who wins an election. So how do you lead with all of that? How do you continue to engage with that? And so, anyways.
Yeah.
Please don't bring up the election, okay? It's just too early. I can't have a drink. Okay?
You're drinking right now. I see you on TV.
Your history and that leaders have to be tech savvy. FDR harkens to my next slide. Actually, this is way too much to show, so I don't expect you to look at it. But basically, what I wanted to say is there's a lot of leadership theory behind these conversations. And when you see a chart like this from 1900 through today, it looks really complex, but really we know a lot more of this stuff than we think. And the whole idea of the great man theory way back, we're born with traits, and that's what makes leaders. And of course that's not true. Myers-Briggs came along in the late 30s, 40s, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, then the team development literature, and then we got into transformational, transactional leaders, culture and leadership, the whole servant leadership idea, which today Jim Collins, Good to Great, a lot of you guys have read that. He calls level 5 leadership essentially the same thing, and he actually gives it that credit. Emotional intelligence, EQ. If you've read the Urban Meyer book, Above the Line, and remember Tim Kite at annual conference last year talking about making those decisions. An event happens, the E plus our R, our response, equals the O, the outcome, and that can be really positive or really negative. So these things are underlying a lot of what we're doing and what we're talking about. And they're sort of at the base. And so this is where I mentioned at the very beginning, I'm always looking for intersections to figure out what's happening. And so this technology and practice, if you bring those two things together, we've had a few really good examples. What does it look like? And I find asking myself these questions is helpful, probably because I need to learn as much as anybody. So question number 3, what's at the intersection of technology and leadership practice? How might we approach if we're coming up on that intersection?
I think it's a big pileup, isn't it? No, I'm okay.
Maybe. Oh, I love that answer.
Well, I got into a little bit of trouble with my use of technology with a Qualtrics survey.
Yeah? What about? How so?
Well, I wanted to be transparent. I wanted it to be as useful to as many people in our system as possible. So I added extension educators as collaborators. And what I missed on that is the ability to filter. I gave up my ability to filter inappropriate responses when I did that. So, if somebody answers the survey and they're dissing somebody by name or this or that, by making it available to everyone, by including everybody as collaborators, I kind of gave up something I didn't realize I was giving up.
Wow.
And so just interesting, lesson learned. I'm still trying to balance that transparency and collaborativeness and inclusion with the ability to filter out the bad responses. I don't know what the answer is.
That's a tremendous example. I'm thinking about implications and thinking, wow, yeah, that could be all over the board because
well, especially because many of our customers, and many of our customers have very strong feelings about
Mm-hmm.
4-H and fairs and this and that and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I think our educators are, often caught in the middle of meeting customers' expectations and pushing change and all that kind of stuff. So there's always a cranky somebody. And I really lost sight of that in my enthusiasm to share. So anyway.
Wow. Yeah, that's huge. I did 4-H, 7, 8 years.
Yeah.
And I remember a lot of those cranky people.
I
There were a
know.
lot of amazing people too, though.
I know.
Try to push
So
change.
imagine there was a survey where somebody got to vent and it was shared with all your colleagues. Darn it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although typically people, our colleagues understand, but
It's not any fun.
Yeah, I think you see this more and more today with social media and
yes.
blogging and everything else.
There it goes right to what you were saying about transparency and
people can
everybody
comment.
knows everything.
And it's there's a study that really looks at people in cars that are convertibles versus cars that have a cover. And the road rage is much less when you have a convertible because people can see you.
Mm.
And I think there's some of this now where people can just comment, where there used to be the school board meeting with a cranky old person like you're talking about, it was visible, but now people can very much, the options for them to comment are so high and the accountability for doing so low that it makes it really difficult in situations like that.
Yeah, so that's something to guard against.
You guys, is this an example of what we're talking about? Because this is being recorded, right? And where is it going to be made available?
Anywhere?
Including our customers. Our customers could have access to this?
Good.
Yeah.
Legally, absolutely.
So.
Behind the scenes, dirty laundry.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Wasn't very dirty, but maybe slightly.
No, but I mean, it even makes it. I don't mean to be disrespectful at all, but when I say something like a cranky customer, but I can see why one of our customers would say, "Oh my God, look how she's painting everybody with this broad brush and blah blah blah."
I was actually thinking of an internal cranky, like fellow colleague when you said customer in 4-H. I was thinking of another 4-H educator, not a particular person, but just that we get cranky ourselves. So that's what I thought you meant, but it could have been taken either way. Yeah. Yeah. Other thoughts on the intersection of technology and leadership practice? How might we approach it with all of these new crazy gizmos and apps and our lives?
I think we have to be supportive of bringing everyone along. So for example, I have this nice little camera on the top of my desktop screen, and as curriculum manager and head of the curriculum committee for 4-H, for example, I would want to make sure everyone on that committee has one of these cameras or is using a laptop with a built-in camera or whatever. And so I have to be willing to pay for and provide that technology if that's how I want them to interact, for example.
Well, and the training piece, to bring them along. Not everyone is as up to speed, or they may not be comfortable using Zoom. So if you're the leader, if you're leading that group or that organization, yeah. Other thoughts?
Brian, I think for me, when I think about great leadership, I think about relationship building. And I think that there's a lot of tools and technology that we can use to help foster that relationship building, especially between those higher ups that I mentioned earlier, those people in administrative positions, and county educators and county staff. Because again, there's often a gap between how and why decisions are made, and then those decisions being rolled out, and just administration saying, well, this is what we're doing, and we're not really going to offer an explanation about, why or how we're doing it. We're just saying that this is being done. And I think that technology can be a really good tool to use for communicating the whole process throughout the decision making. And I think of tools like Zoom. I think of tools like Slack. Jamie and I use Slack for team communication every day. It's how we communicate with one another. It's how we build relationships with people. Mm-hmm. And there, you do have to choose wisely, because we don't want to be jumping from one tool to the next, to the next, to the next. And sometimes it feels like we're doing that. When I started in Extension, we were at the tail end of using WebEx, and then we started using Carmen Connect, and now we're going to be rolling out Zoom. We're constantly jumping from one thing to the next. The benefit of that is we're testing out new things, and we're finding what works best. And we have to be continually learning, and good leaders are going to continue that down that process of, this really isn't working. We need to find a better solution. So there's lots of moving pieces and parts, but I think technology can certainly be used for that relationship building part.
Yeah, I would think that there's a distinction between leaders and followers that maybe we're making that we shouldn't make, and that we should be adapting these technologies as they come out versus expecting someone else to tell us always what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good point.
And I like the idea that leaders need to support new technology, such as Jane was saying about with the cameras and so forth. That totally makes sense.
So in a way, leaders have to be followers at some point to learn what these are. Mm-hmm. Leaders also have to be educators. You have to really bring people along through a coaching standpoint of why we're doing certain things and what the reasoning behind it is, and moving away and having that be more transparent, like Danae was saying. Here's the logic behind why we're making this choice. What's your input into that? So.
Yeah, I got some great quotes from you guys. So, let's see. So, Danae, it's about a quarter till, and I don't know. Do these usually go about 45 minutes?
These usually go anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour, so we can definitely spend some more time. We'll wrap up by 11 for sure, but if you have some more stuff you'd like to cover or just open it up for discussion, we can do that too.
I had other questions, management and leadership, that I don't know if they're all that interesting based on the rest of the conversation we've had. But maybe we'll go there. I don't know. But let me do this quickly so that we don't miss this, and then we can go back for any other discussion. There's a new national extension organization through e-extension that we're starting, just basically a network where we'll share ideas, programs, resources, energy around leadership. And you can join that by going to people.extension.org or sending me an email. And either way, I can get you signed up. And basically, we've got about 45 or 50 people, I think, have signed up now from all around the country. And the idea is that we can just get together and talk. We'll probably have a meeting in late October, beginning of November. I haven't sent out the doodle poll yet to see. And then we'll strategize. We'll use some group process to put people into some categories and come up with some organization on how we can get together and think and start to talk about content sharing and programming and basically help each other improve what we're doing every day, both in teaching about leadership and in acting what we do in our regular job. So looks to be fun and should be a good conversation. So for the good of the order and for the sake of time, because I don't like to keep people around for the sake of that, does anybody have anything that they would like to throw in about leadership and technology?
Well, I have a couple follow-up questions.
Yeah.
Brian, is the leadership development for organization and communities group intended for people who are actually working in those topic areas, in those program areas?
No, it's open for anybody. And I sort of have a belief of the more diverse, the more open we are, the better and more robust whatever we're doing will be, because you're getting different ideas and views.
Okay.
And input. And so you don't have to be teaching leadership to be in this group.
Okay.
You may be a consumer. You may want to improve your personal leadership. You may just want to have ideas or share questions.
Okay.
Some of the richest content in our food systems network, we have a similar network in the Extension for Local Food Systems, and some fascinating content and then subsequent programming has been developed, or maybe even a journal article because someone asked a question that really stimulated conversation and got people thinking and resulted then in some action. So I really like thinking about the possibilities that are wide open.
Thank you. And now one question for Danae. Tell me about Slack.
Slack is wonderful. Slack is a free service that Jamie and I use. It's sort of an instant messaging tool. So you can sign up for it. I have the desktop app, so I open it on my desktop just like I would open my Outlook email. Jamie and I have an ed tech, I don't know what they officially call it, but I've always sort of called it a room. And then within that room, we have multiple channels for a variety of different projects that we work on. So we have an annual conference planning room that we are able to add anybody who's involved with annual conference planning into that channel.
You want to share your screen and show that, Danae?
Yes, let me.
Because I would like to see it. I think it'd be cool.
Let me do that. Share.
You probably don't have it open, but it'll probably just take you a second. Because I've heard about it too, Jane. Great question. I was kind of thinking, oh yeah, I've heard about Slack. I haven't tried it yet.
Well, for example, it sounds like it just has more features than something as simple as GroupMe. Is that right?
I'm not familiar with GroupMe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
All right, can you guys see this now?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is what our Slack channel looks like. You can see up here it says OSU Extension, Ed Tech. This is our sort of room. And then within that, we have all of these different channels. Right now we have 7 channels. Right now I'm in the I'm in the channel for annual conference planning. Steve Brady is in this channel, and Beth Abbott, anybody who's going to be helping us with annual conference planning. And it's just an instant messaging tool that we can use to have conversations. The great thing about it is you can share files, and everything is kept within the Slack server. So you can go back and search for stuff. You can search for conversations that you had a year ago.
Wow.
It's a really, really great tool. And it really cuts down on unnecessary email, especially when Jamie and I are communicating throughout the day. We tend to communicate throughout the day, all day, every day. So rather than having to send an email and then wait to get the reply, it comes through Slack. I also have the Slack app on my mobile device. So if I'm away from my computer, it's much easier to check Slack than it is to log into Outlook online.
Okay, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, and it'd be great for team communication. This is not something that is technically supported by Ohio State University Extension. So if you were to start using this with your team and you run into an issue with it, OSU is going to say, we can't help you because we don't support that. But it is something that you could try out with your teams and see how you like it.
Okay. Well, I could ask you.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thanks, Danae. That was cool to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Jamie put something in the message box here. It's a combination of Skype, Basecamp, and Google Hangouts, combines features from a lot of different tools. And you can use Slack to encompass the applications of a lot of different tools.
Okay. Hey, I was on a Zoom the other day and someone put a document in the chat box.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever done that? It was kind of genius. Maybe there was just a
Yeah.
link in the chat box, but I thought it was the document itself was in the chat box.
Oh,
Yeah, you
I'm
can
not seeing
share docs, and you don't have to be a presenter. You just
Right.
open the chat box, and there's a little drop-down menu that says more. Let's
Yeah.
just say chat. Oh, you have to have permission. So Danae, as the leader or whatever it is of Zoom, could give permission to me or to everybody. And if you have permission, then the little more allows you to drop.
Yes, yes. Let me turn
Documents in there. Okay.
Zoom here. With your colleague Jane Ryan's on there.
Or Steve.
Question, the way that I have,
Can we mute him?
let's see,
Jamie, if you're on, can you mute?
basically I'm going to put it in a box and it's going to have each,
I'm not a
He got
host.
he got a call.
and I put the lesson in there and any attachment that the lesson had.
Yeah, I don't have the ability to mute him,
Oh.
unfortunately.
Jamie just did it.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, the host can do all things.
Right.
But there's not a way. I'm so grateful for this for the practice using Zoom. So forgive me. I'm straying from the leadership topic. Maybe I'll be quiet for a minute.
No, that's fine.
Okay. Oh, I had a question about using Zoom and being the host. So I don't think there's a way like, I got my head around putting all these documents up into Adobe Connect, as long as they were PDFs, of course. And that's not part of Zoom, right?
I don't believe, and Jamie knows better than I do, she's been using Zoom for a long time through eExtension. She's had an account through eExtension. I have only used it as a host for about the 4 to 6 week trial period that we had last month. I don't think you can actually upload stuff to the Zoom server to share like you would do with Karma Connect.
Okay, and I'm happy with that because it's actually more about the conversation then.
Right, and you can still share your screen and you can still share documents. And maybe I'm just wrong on that. Like I said, I don't have the experience that other people have, so I can find out and see.
I'm kind of learning. Okay.
But I don't even see like the option to share like something.
Right. That's why a link or the document in the chat box was such an eye-opener.
Right.
Well, and the host has to do that. I was just looking to see, I was thinking there was a thing where you request permission from the host, but maybe the host just has to give it to you.
Okay.
I was thinking that like if I tried to share my screen and didn't have permission, then it would say request permission from the host.
I have to approve that.
And I'm not finding it right now. We used that about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I can click share my screen now and it lets me. So that means I've already received permission from the host. So, but others can do that too. Like Jane, you might say, share your screen. I don't know if it will let you if you have to get permission. You might try it just for fun.
And I think you can set that up if you are the host. So
that's trying. Okay. Oh.
I think.
Whose screen is that?
Yeah, I don't need no permission.
Yeah. So
Badges.
Jamie probably set that up when she set up her meeting room. I think you have that option of saying like, allow the participants to have these rights. So everybody's automatically given those rights. If she had set it up so that people did not automatically have those rights, then she would be able to get it within the meeting.
Okay, because when that document was posted in chat the other day, I was the host. I don't think I gave anybody special permission, so maybe it was the default.
Okay, yeah.
I'm going to see if I can share my screen. Oh,
I don't
look, I
think
think
I've
there
seen
are all
that
these different screens.
And we will, once Zoom is officially rolled out for the organization, Jamie and I will be providing plenty of training to the organization about how to use this. We'll do best practices for hosting webinars. We'll teach people how to go up and setting up the meeting room is so much more intuitive than it was with Carmen Connect. Carmen Connect, setting up your meeting room and having to get a phone number set up, it was always just such a hassle. And with Zoom, it's just like, it just works, is what everybody says.
Yeah, that's what I think. I love it. Did you guys see my PowerPoint there for a minute?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Very easy to end that sharing too.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. We're very, very excited about it. And we think that this will completely change the landscape of how Extension does virtual meetings. It'll cut down on travel. In a meeting like this, I feel like I'm sitting in a room meeting with you guys.
Yes.
When you're on Carmen Connect, you have no idea who's talking, when they're talking. Everybody's talking over one another. Half the people, their audio isn't even working. In fact, I tried to do a meeting yesterday with a new employee, and not only could we could not figure out how to get her audio to work, but then I could not share my screen no matter what I did. So we had to talk over the phone, and then I wasn't able to do most of the stuff I wanted to do with her because I couldn't share my screen, and it's just a disaster. It's a disaster.
It was a disaster. And my experience is they became monologues, me just talking.
Yeah.
Any responses?
Yeah.
Bueller?
Can you hear me now?
Right. So, great. I'm looking forward to this big time.
Yeah.
So do you know when that's going to be, by the way? I'm on my free trial. My meetings are limited to 30 minutes because of the free trial, and my 30 days is going to be up before I know it. Do you know when that's going to be rolled out? And should I just do a subscription for the short term?
You know, we don't
Oh, yeah?
know with 100% positivity. We know that it's passed the OCIO security assessment. And some of our IT folks in the college have to meet with Roger. Right now, we Jamie and I approached this from we want extension to adopt this. Now the college is looking at adopting this college-wide, which is wonderful. But because of that, they're trying to figure out who's going to pay for it and at what level, and how many subscriptions do we get for webinars, or how many licenses do we pay for the webinars, because it's very expensive if everybody's going to have a webinar license. They have to have a lot of conversations about that. We were hoping by the new year we'd be able to roll this out and we'd be able to make that announcement at annual conference, but it's extension, so don't hold your breath.
Okay, so I'll do my own subscription. And it sounds like, I don't think the people I invite have to have subscriptions, right?
No.
Okay, cool.
And just pursuant to the webinar license part, if you and Jamie are talking with Roger and others, I don't think all that many of us need to have webinar licenses. I have conducted meetings just like this that are almost webinars, without some of the other tools of polling or whatever. And it works really well. If I want to do an official, like a national webinar or a statewide webinar where I'm really teaching and then seeking the feedback and that sort of thing, I haven't done, I haven't done one of those in a year probably. So, and I teach all the time, and I use Zoom. I had a trial license as well as part of the trial team. But it worked. So anyway, so you may pass along that I don't know that we need a lot of licenses to have webinars.
Right. We don't think we do either. The one barrier to that is then there has to be one person who's managing those licenses.
Sure. Yeah.
And they have to be assigning the licenses to each individual who needs it when they need it. So who is that person going to be, and are they going to be able to keep up with that workload? Roger wants to make webinars a priority over the next year, probably more than a year. And we want to really increase our capacity for offering online programs, like big national webinars that anybody could join in. And then we want to create an archive of webinars, recorded webinars that people can then access. So it's going to be a priority area for us moving forward. But yeah, I can't foresee us having any more than just a couple webinars going on simultaneously. So that's another thing that the college is trying to figure out. So lots of pieces and parts, and everybody's really excited. I know Roger is really excited about Zoom, as are Jamie and I. So
yeah, I've been using it for years in Arkansas, and I'm glad they're finally getting it here.
Nice.
Yeah. A lot of states are using it, and they love it. I've never heard one bad thing about Zoom. So Brian, any final thoughts on leadership and technology, or any final thoughts from the group?
A good leader knows when to quit. It's 11 o'clock. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for being our guest host.
I have a page full of notes that I got from you guys. Good stuff, some good ideas. I appreciate it, and I hope it was helpful to you guys as well. Thanks to Jamie and Danae for putting it on.
Thank you.
Good blog post yesterday. Thanks, Brian.
All righty. See you guys.
Thanks, Jane, for joining us.